Hi everyone, and welcome back to DreamSpace HomeSpace, our MakeCode Arcade series. Joining me today is Amanda.
Hi guys.
And my name is Corey, and in the background we have the rest of our team working hard to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, so what are we doing today? Well, today we are actually starting a new game. Woo! And I'm super excited about this game, okay, because we're actually going to be recreating a famous or a really kind of new and trendy gaming app. Okay, so that app is Crossy Roads. So I don't know if anyone else has been playing it, but I have been at home and I'm obsessed. So I was like, let's try recreate it in MakeCode Arcade. Okay, now before I done this and before we jump into the game, I actually had to plan out the game and think, okay, well, what do I want to happen? So over here we have a player. And the player in Crossy Roads is a duck, so I'm going to go with a duck. And the enemies are cars, crocodiles, and the war. Now, in Crossy Roads, there actually isn't any food or any projectiles, but remember, this is our game. We're just trying to recreate, but we can add our own flair to it. So I said, maybe we'll have eggs, our food, and the projectiles can be like breadcrumbs. But remember, we don't have to use these. These are just here for good planning purposes. Now, in our game today, we are going to be using block coding, but we're also going to introduce text-based programming, okay? So within text-based programming, we have syntax, and you might have heard of this word before, but syntax is basically just the rules that are used in a specific coding language, okay? And each coding language has different rules. And the one that we're going to be using today is JavaScript, okay? And JavaScript is one of the most popular coding languages, okay? It's used in nearly everything, so games and websites and apps. So that's what we're going to be using today. Now, some tips that we have for when you're learning to code with a text-based programming language is go from blocks to syntax. So I done this a lot when I was learning how to code. I would do the code out in blocks and then I'd toggle over to JavaScript and I'd have a look at what that actually looks like in syntax. Okay, and it can actually be really, really useful. The next one is commenting your code, okay? So in JavaScript, we comment our code using 2 forward slashes, okay? And basically what these do is, this is only what humans can read, okay? So a comment is only what human can read. So if you're a robot, you won't be able to read it, okay? The computers actually don't read the comments. They scan over them. So comments are used for, maybe you might say, oh, this is what's happening on line 100. So when you go back later on, you can actually see what's going on. The next one is, and I think this is a really, really useful tip, is to manipulate your code. And basically this means just experimenting with the elements in the code and changing them around to see what you change. Will it change the game in any way? And we'll do this in actually a couple of seconds with our background color. And finally, test, and test your code as you go, okay?
So Corey, it's going to be really nice to actually use this. And I think some people think like it's really hard, but it actually isn't it not? It's just practice. So like you said there, you can toggle, and then what we're going to do is toggle and then just try and repeat similar types of instructions and syntax.
Exactly. So sometimes people can think, oh, this might be very difficult. But like Amanda said, it's just practice. You're learning a new language here. So the more you can immerse yourself into it and the more practice you get, the more used to it you will get. Okay? So here we go. Let's start a new game. The first thing that I'm super excited as well. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set the background color. Okay, so we know that we find this in scene. So if I go into scene, I can click set background color, and I'm going to click this and pop it in. And I'm going to click in the circle and I'm just going to go to beige color, okay? But what I'm going to do now is I actually want to know, what does that look like in JavaScript? So over here, you can see this button that says JavaScript. Click on it and it will bring us over. And that's actually all that block is in JavaScript and syntax. That's pretty straightforward, I think. But remember we talked about manipulating our code. So see this number here, 13. I'm going to change this just to see what happens because I can change it back, okay? So Amanda, give me a number. What's your favorite number?
We'll go with 8.
8. Okay, so if I change this to 8 and I press play over here, it's blue. Oh, so nice. This obviously means the different colors. So give us a number.
4.
4. Okay, let's see. Orange. Okay.
Yes.
So you can actually pause me if you want for the moment and go through and type in loads of different numbers. I think it's 1 to 15 is the most because that's all the color options that you get on that palette. So test it out 1 to 15 and see what colors you get. Okay. So what was beige again? 13, wasn't it?
Think so.
Okay, brilliant. So I'm going to press play and it is, and I'm going to toggle black into blocks. Now, next thing we need to do is actually create our sprite. So let's go into sprites and let's take out the first block of code. Now, I'm not going to leave it as my sprite. I never do. I'm going to give this a name. So I don't know. I'm going to go with Tweety, Amanda. It's the only name I can think of, but I'm sure everyone else has really cool names. Okay, so Tweety, and I'm going to click in here. And again, here you can pause me and draw your sprite, but I'm going to pick one from the gallery. And I'm going to go with this little duck here, looking pretty cute. And I'm going to keep them as a player. Now, I'm going to toggle into JavaScript just to see what this looks like, okay? Because I think it might look a little bit different. Okay, so let Tweety be a sprite that looks like this, okay? And this is where, see where it says IMG, that's the image. And the sprite is kind player. Now, if I wanted to change Tweety's name, what do you think I'd change there, Amanda, on line 2?
We could change Tweety.
Yeah, exactly. So I might call them Sweetie. And then when I go back into blocks, my name is changed. That's really, really cool, I think. So that's how we can manipulate the code in JavaScript. Now, I am going to rename them back to Tweety and press OK. Now, what do you say we get this duck moving?
Absolutely.
Okay, so in Crossy Roads, to get the duck to move, we just tap on the screen. So we're obviously using a Game Boy simulator here. So I was thinking what we could say is on button A pressed, get Tweety to move up. Okay, so because they're going to be going up a tile map. So I'm going to go into controller and I'm going to take out on A button pressed. And I'm going to say when I press the A button, I want Tweety to move. So let's go into sprites and let's change. Okay, so we're going to go change my sprite X by 0. We know we can change my sprite. We know we can change X. So let's take this out. And obviously I'm going to change my sprite to Tweety. Now, Amanda, if I want Tweety to be moving up, am I on the X or Y axis?
Y.
Exactly. And I'm going to get them to move, I don't know, maybe 10, 15. But what do I need to do here? If I want them to go up, is it going to be minus 10 or just 10?
So we talked about this before, that up was going to be minus.
Exactly. So I'm going to type in here minus 10. And that should work. Okay. So let me see, on A button pressed. Woo! Okay, and they're gone off the screen. So maybe it was too much of a jump. So I'm going to try it again. Woo! Okay, that's so much better. Now, what I want to do is I want to have, when I press the A button, and now I want to be able to go left and right. But we aren't going to do this in blocks. We're going to challenge ourselves and we're going to toggle over to JavaScript. Now, I can see here that line 1, 2, and 3 is all to do with my controller A. So I'm just going to press my enter button just to give myself more space, okay? And what I want to do is I'm actually going to minimize my Game Boy because I don't need it right now. But I am going to recreate this, but change it so it suits me for when I go left. Now, I could just copy and paste that and manipulate it, but because we're learning how to code in syntax here, it's actually really good practice to type it out, okay, and get used to it. So I'm going to go controller, dot, and I want to go left this time. So instead of A, we're going to type left, okay? And then after that is on event, and I'm literally just copying everything that's up here, but changing what suits me. Now, when I type on event, I get prompted, okay? It's telling me, here you go, this is what you're looking for. So I'm going to click on that. Brilliant. And look, it's after doing all my brackets for me. And they can be the tricky part in syntax because sometimes you might open a bracket and forget to close it and it will cause an error. So it's really good when it prompts you because it will finish it out for you. Now, I know that I don't want event. I want controller button event. So I'm going to type controller and it's giving me button event. And then I have a full stop, and I have pressed, and then I have a comma, and I have function. So my first line is complete. It looks exactly like this one here. The only thing I changed was left, because this time we want to go left. And who do I want to go left? I want Tweety. Oh, I have to make sure I'm putting this in the right place. Make sure that you're down here, okay, on line 6 or just underneath that first line of code. I want Tweety on what axis? Now, this is where it can get tricky, okay? So it's not going to be Y, okay, because left and right is on the x-axis. And we're just going to go plus equals. Oh, is that a plus? Plus equals. And is it 10 or minus 10? This one we have to really think. Well, I think left is minus 10, but if it's not, I can come back and fix it, okay? So I'm going to bring out my simulator and see if this works. A works. Does left work? Yes, it does. Okay, brilliant. Now we just need to do the same thing for right. And if you want, you can highlight all of this, right click and copy and paste it. And what are you going to change? You're going to change left to right. But I think it's really good practice to type out what you're doing. So I'm going to say controller dot right dot on event. And remember, it's prompting me here. So I'm going to click it. And I'm going to have controller button event dot pressed. And then I have my first line done. Okay. Now, who do I want to move right? I want Tweety on X to move. Plus equals, and if we're going to the right-hand side, we're in our positive, so I can just write 10. And it should work, okay? Now, I'm going to stop for a second, and I'm going to let you pause me so you have all that code in front of you, and you can work away and get it done, okay? If you don't want to work in JavaScript, that's absolutely fine. You can toggle on over to blocks, and there is our blocks that we just done. So that is really, really cool. Now we have Tweety going this way, up, left, and right. Now, I'm not doing down for the moment because I want to make this game quite challenging for myself, okay? Now, it might be too challenging, it might be too hard. So later on, we might have to come back and actually do a downwards button so that if Tweety gets stuck, we can go back. But for now, I'm going to leave it because I like the challenge. Okay, next thing we want to do now is actually create our tile map, okay? So I'm going to go into scene. And we're going to just bring out a good old tile map that we're used to, okay? And let's pop it in here.
I'm excited to see this, Corey.
Same. I can't wait. So this is my favorite part. I love a good old tile map, don't I?
Yeah.
Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go 16 wide, which is grand, by 30 height. Now, if you've played Crossy Roads, you know that it goes on forever, okay? You can make your tile map 100 height if you want, okay? But for the purposes of the webinar, I probably only have time to get a 30 tile map done, so I'm going to stick with 30. Now, we have to think, what do we want in our tile map? We want grass, we want water. What else is usually across the road? Oh, the roads, obviously. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go into my tiles and I'm going to create just a plain green for the grass and a plain blue for the water. So I'm going to go green and my bucket and click and done. And another plus because I want a blue with the bucket and done. Okay, now we've done that loads of times before, so I just sped through that part. But remember, you can pause me. Now, right, let's get to it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this green tile and I'm going to give Tweety just a little bit of space just to breathe at the bottom before they get started, okay? And then we'll make them encounter a road. What do you think, Amanda?
Yeah, absolutely.
So roads are in gallery and miscellaneous and they're at the end. So I'm going to use this one here. And I'm just going to make it a pretty simple road. Just one at the bottom and then one at the top. Okay, so 2-lane road, in other words. Then I am going to, do you know what? I'm actually going to give Tweety a little bit more breathing room. So I'm going to go into forest and I'm going to just leave this here.
Yeah, good idea. Because sure, your heart will be in your mouth crossing that road.
Exactly. And then do you know what I might do actually? I might do a 3-lane road now. Just to make it a little bit harder because now we are going to be doing water, but the water was the hardest part I found of the game. So I'm going to try not have it as often as I can. Okay, and then a little bit more breathing room. Yeah. So I'm going to do this, and then we're going to have the water. And what do you think we're going to have on the water?
Just put some sort of an enemy maybe in the water, will we?
Yeah.
And then we obviously need a way to get across the water. I suppose ducks could just go across, but we could be inventive as well.
Yeah, true, actually. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we'll have to be very creative with that part. And then I'm just going to go roads again. And we're nearly there. If I get past this though, by the end of this, I have to say I'll be very happy with myself because that looks pretty difficult. I don't think I've ever gotten this far in Crossy Roads. My high score is like 70, so I'm sure everyone at home is like, what? Only 70? And I've been playing it weeks. Okay, add one more river and then we'll end. Okay, now I don't know what the end goal is going to be at the moment. Maybe you at home have some ideas. Pop them in the Q&A. That'd be great. And I'm also going to need somewhere for Tweety to start, okay? Because if I press done now, we see that Tweety's just going to start wherever Tweety wants to start, okay?
Sitting duck.
Literally a sitting duck. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our good old placeholders, okay, that we used so many times in the Bubbles game. So let's go into our tile map and create a new tile of whatever color you want, okay? I'm just going with this one because it was already there. And done. And then I'm going to click it, make sure I'm on my small, and I want Tweety to start around here, so I'm happy enough with that. So I'm going to press done. Now, what am I missing? I am missing a camera follow me. I never done that, didn't I not?
No, so if you move now, Tweety is going to just go off the screen.
Exactly.
And then we need to also do the placeholder, don't we?
Yes, so there's a couple of steps to this part, but nothing we haven't seen before, so we'll be well able. So I'm after placing the pink tile. So now what I need to do is, first of all, I need to get the camera to follow me, and that's in scene. So I'm going to go scene and camera follow my sprite, bring it in. My sprite's name is Tweety. Okay, and last thing then, just so we can see, we need to actually get Tweety to be on that pink tile. So I'm going to go into loops. And our good old 4-element value of list that we're so used to seeing. I don't want it to be a list. I want it to be an array of all the pink tiles. So let's look for array. There we go. And I'm going to pop this in here. Now, remember, it's the pink tile where Tweety starts, okay? So I'm going to just stop there for a second. You can pause me if you want to make sure that you get all this part before we move on. And then we need to actually place Tweety on that tile, okay? So we need to get a place here, bring it out. And we're going to say place Tweety on top of the pink tile map, which is also known as our value. Okay, so let's see what happens. Woohoo! Now, we don't want to see that pink tile. Okay, so we're going to make it transparent. So we're going to go into scene. And we are going to set transparency. Okay, so see this one here? Bring it down. And what do we want to be see-through? Our pink tile, which is our value. Now, let's see what happens. Okay. Not to worry. Do you know why it's like this?
That's our background color, isn't it, Corey?
That is our background color. So what we can do is we can click into here and we can change it to green. But let's toggle into JavaScript because I like a challenge. Let's see if we can guess what number it is. Now I need to actually find this background color. Can you see what line it is there, Amanda? Where is our background color?
Down there on number 89, if my eyesight's allowing me to see it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Now I'm just going to, what we go with, 6?
6, yeah, or maybe 7.
Okay, let's try 7.
6 is a little bit, it's close, but not there yet.
Woo! Okay, brilliant. So one last thing that I'm going to do before I pass you over to Amanda is I am actually just going to comment this code, okay? Because remember, commenting our code is really good practice and it helps us to see what we're going to be doing later. So I might say, for example, here, I know that this is my left button. So I'm going to do my 2 forward slashes and see the way they turn green. And I'm going to say on left button. Okay. And
Brilliant.
then I can do the same for A, and you can keep going on. So on A button, you can keep going and commenting your code so that if someone comes back to, or if someone's playing this game, they toggle into JavaScript, they know exactly what's going on what line and what means what. Okay. So I think I'm happy enough with that. What you think, Amanda? Will we insert some enemies?
I think so. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so we've done great work there so far. So well done, everyone. So yeah, exactly. So right now, if we look at our game over here, we can see that we can move Tweety like we talked about. We can go up, we can go to the left, to the right, all of those things. But when we're approaching the road at the moment, oh, Tweety's disappeared off my screen. Oh, there we go. When we go up towards the road, there's actually no cars there at the moment. So we need to add them, and they're going to be enemies. So they're going to be things we want to avoid. So let's think about this. We want cars to pass on that road, both coming from the right-hand side and the left-hand side, don't we, Corey? So we're going to need two cars.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then we kind of want that just to keep happening as the game updates. What do you think?
Yeah, so put it on a game update, and I'd say like, I'd go half a second, see how we get on.
Yeah, okay. So we'll try on game update every half a second. I'll just move in slightly here just so we can see. Perfect. Okay, so on game update every half a second. Now at the same time, Corey, I suppose every half a second, it might be too frequent. So we might need to use something called a percentage chance. So a percentage of the time maybe is when the cars come in. Because if they came in every half a second, it could be a little bit too hard to cross the road. I know that's has to be hard, but we want to be able to have a chance.
Yeah, maybe we can do that in level 2. Yeah, let's give ourselves a chance to get there first.
Yeah, so we're going to use something called a percentage chance. So basically the frequency that this is going to happen, and we'll use a conditional statement to set this, okay? So remember, our conditional statements are in logic, and we're going to grab our if then block and we're going to drop them in here, okay? Now, percentage chance, if you even think about those words, percentage, you would think of maths, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to find that block. So let's hop into maths, and down there at the very, very bottom of the screen, you'll see it says percentage chance, and it's the exact shape we need actually. So we'll grab that one and we'll bring it in, okay? And we're going to drop that in to where it says true. Okay, so if you need to pause now and just get yourself set up with this setup, go for it, okay? Now, Corey, we'll try, it's up to us, I suppose, and people can change this again according to what you want. I'm going to go with 60% for this first car anyway, 60% of the time it comes in. What do you think?
That sounds good. And as you said, we can just change it anyway.
Completely, yeah. And then we're going to create our sprite. So 60% of the time, we want this sprite to come in. So let's go create our sprite. So we go into sprites and we're going to click on set my sprite. So we're really familiar with this now, and we're going to drop that in. Now we're going to rename our variable, and I'm going to just be very creative and call it car. You might name it car. Okay, so set car to. We're then going to decide what our car looks like. So again, obviously at home, if you want to pause, you can draw your own type of car or vehicle. It doesn't even have to be a car. Okay, it's up to you.
True. There's trucks and crossy roads.
Yeah, exactly. And if I go down to the bottom, you'll see there is cars in here for me. Now, remember what we said a second ago. We actually want the cars to come from the right and from the left hand side of the screen. So we're going to have to do two different cars facing in different directions. So let's go with the one that's going to come from the right hand side of the screen first and make its way across to the left hand side of our screen. So I'm going to go with this red car, okay? That's driving towards the left like that. And I'm going to click done. Okay, and then the final thing, if you look at this, if you read this line, there's one problem here. It's that we haven't changed what type of sprite this is. Remember, this is an enemy. We're trying to avoid this. So we're going to change the kind to enemy. Okay, happy enough, Corey?
That looks good.
Okay, now remember, the car is going to be moving in a given direction. So we want the car to move in a given direction. And we talked about this before, what that is. It's velocity. So that's the next thing we're going to do. We're going to set this car's velocity. So I'm going to go into sprites and I'm going to go down, and you'll see here, there's a block, set my sprite velocity. So we're going to grab that one and we're going to pop that in. Okay. Obviously our sprite is called car. And then we're going to change this. Now, the velocity of our car isn't going to go up or down. It's going to just be working left or right. So it's going to be on our x-axis only. So we don't need Vy, velocity y, the y-axis is not involved here. So we're going to change that to 0. And let's think about this one, Vx. So it's going to be velocity of x. So it's going to be working from this side to this side. So Corey, we're going to be in negative x, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
We might change this to minus or negative 50 instead.
Very good.
Okay. Happy enough?
Looking good.
Okay. Now, still no sign of our car. You might be thinking, where is this car? Well, we haven't actually told the car where it comes in from, okay, or where it needs to be. So we want it to be on the roads, okay, obviously, that's where the cars would traditionally be. So we are going to go and make sure we place this car onto the road, okay? So this is similar to what we would have done before when we were placing things on our tile map. We're going to use our tile map effectively here. So we go into scene and we go down, and have I gone by it there actually? No, I haven't. Oh no, I have gone by. Apologies, nice. Sorry. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So we're going to place our sprite on top of random. So we're going to grab that one, bring it in. And again, our sprite is car. And the tile we want to go on top of is the road. Okay, now if you want to pause there and just make sure you have those blocks good to go. Now, if you look at my screen, you can see the cars are actually working their way across, but sometimes they actually appear in the middle of the road, which isn't ideal. Like, cars don't just appear in the road, okay? So we want them to, even though we're saying random, we want the random tile map to be actually set kind of off the screen so that they drive on. Does that make sense, Corey?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we're gonna go and use our coordinates again just to set this, that after it picks the random one, it locates it actually just off the screen so that they always drive in, okay?
Yeah.
So we're gonna go into sprites and we are going to set our sprite position. So get this one, we're gonna pop that in there. Again, this is our car, and we're going to set the car to be located at 200, which is, if you think about our arcade simulator again, just to point out, remember, if you can see my arrow here on my screen, this up here is 0 for X and Y, and over here, the far end is 160. So if I set it to around 200, it means it's definitely going to be off the screen and come in. Does that make sense, Corey?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Perfect. So let's just check this is working here. They all seem to be coming in. Oh, woo. Happy days. Great. Now, the other thing we want to do is just make sure that when they hit this wall, they're gone. We want to just destroy them. So again, we can go into sprites and we can move down. Sorry, now we go down. And we are going to grab this one that says set my sprite stay in screen, but we have an arrow here to switch the options, okay? So we're going to grab that one and pop that in. Again, this is our car. And we are going to change stay in screen to destroy on wall. And we are going to turn that on. And now that should be that done. So that's one of our cars done. That's coming from the right-hand side of the screen to the left-hand side of the screen. Now we want to look at from the left-hand side of the screen to the right-hand side of the screen. But before we do that, maybe just pause and make sure that you have this on-game update block good. You're good to go, because when we're going to move on to next is we're going to try our hand now at a bit of JavaScript again. So we're going to use what we've done already to see, can we figure out how we can get the car to come from the other side, okay? So if you want to pause, just get that right before we toggle, because if it's not right now and we toggle and it's not right, then it's going to be a few more issues. Okay, so Corey, we're going to toggle to JavaScript again. Exciting.
Yay, I love this.
Now, there's a lot going on now because we've added a lot more, but it should be down the bottom here for me. There it is. Okay, perfect. And I might just zoom out slightly. Hopefully everyone can still see. And actually, you know what I'll do is I'll close my simulator because it might help. That probably is a bit better. Is that okay, Corey? Can you see that okay?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. Now, we're basically now going to do, as we said, the car is going to come from the opposite direction. So, but it's similar. We're still going to be using very similar ideas. We're going to just have to maybe tweak a few things like positions and numbers and things like that. So let's just copy and paste just to save some time. But the thing about copying and pasting is sometimes we miss, because we haven't written it out from the beginning, it can be hard to get bugs. So I actually might very easily, even though I've done this earlier, could very easily still get a bug. So Corey's going to need to be looking over my shoulder to let me know. But I'm going to take it. Now, what's really important is, you know, Corey already mentioned this, we can get bugs very easily. Even missing a bracket can cause an error, can't it, Corey?
Yep.
So we want to maybe make sure we take everything. So I'm actually, see my line 176, what's underneath? I'm actually going to take from there and I'm going to go all the way up to this one. Okay. And I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to maybe give myself a bit of a gap. And actually, Joe, what? We'll do a comment, Corey, and I'll say car from left.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah. And actually, I'll go up here and here. And we'll just say that's the car from the right. So
and I think it's important as well for people to know that whatever your line is, like if your line is 179, that might not be everyone's at home. People could have, you know, theirs might be 180.
Yeah.
But it's you're just showing them what code they have to take.
Yeah.
The line.
So yeah, exactly. Sorry. So in here now in 181, I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste, or I actually probably just on my keyboard, I'm going to go Control V. And then up here, we have our code. Now you can see it's after opening up my palette for my car, which Corey explained earlier, but I'm going to just close that for a second. Oh, sorry, that did not close. Oh no, it's the plus I need, isn't it?
Yeah, that little minus.
Apologies. We'll go back into the palette in a second though. Okay, so car from left. Now, what we're going to do is we're literally going to read across because, as I said, we are going to change things here. This is just a direct duplicate of the above, which isn't what we want, okay? So we need to make sure we're changing accordingly. So basically game.onUpdate interval 500. We're going to leave that, or actually, Corey, will we change that? Will we give ourselves a different percentage? Oh, that's the milliseconds. Yeah, we're okay with the half a second, aren't we? Yeah. Yeah. So that's fine. And then if the math percent chance, so we might change this one. The last time it was 60% chance of the car coming in. Maybe we'll go 50% chance here, will we?
Yeah, go on.
So we can change that. But again, you might decide to go 70%, 80%. It's just going to be harder, obviously, the more frequent it is, the higher the percentage, the more frequent. So as everyone knows who's been following this, maybe I'm not the best. So I'm going to give myself a really good chance of getting across these roads, right? So 50, that's fine. Okay. Car equals. Now, you might be thinking we need a new variable, but actually we don't need a new variable here. We can, because we're just going to be telling within this condition that our car is going to be different. We're just going to change the image and that's okay. All right. So when we go in here to our palette, we need to change the direction of our car. Remember, this is our car currently. It's going from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. We need to come from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. So we're going to need to change it. So I'm going to go back into my gallery for speed and I'm going to go down.
Oh, there's our shark friend.
And we're going to go with this one instead. So it's going to come from the left-hand side to the right-hand side of the screen. Okay, happy with that one. And it's a different color, which will make it probably a little bit easier. Remember, our last car was red. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Now, I'm going to keep reading. So it's the image. We've just changed the image. Sprite kind enemy. That's good, yeah? So we still know this is an enemy. This new blue car is still an enemy. We want to avoid it. Okay, now, car set velocity. So the speed this time, okay, and we have our X value and our Y value. Now, Y is still not changing. We're still not going up or down. We don't need to touch Y. 0 is fine. However, this time, the direction on X is from left to right. So, Corey, it's not going to be negative, isn't it not?
No, we're going into positives now, so we can get rid of that takeaway sign or that minus. Get rid of
that minus. Yeah, so just make sure if you need to pause at any point now, this is, you can see this line is highlighted. This is where we are. So you need to pause now and make sure you're happy with up to there. Okay. So let's go down to our next line of code here. So this line. So tiles dot place on random tile. So the car is going to be placed on a random tile on the road, the horizontal road. I think we're happy with that one, Corey, aren't we?
Yep, that looks fine.
Yeah. And then our next line. So we don't need to change that one. Car.x. Now, the last time we said, and I'm going to actually just bring my simulator back in here just to explain this. So the last time we said, okay, we want the car to start off the screen and kind of come in. So remember 200 was, this is 160 if you see where my arrow is here. So over here was 200. But this time we want it to come in from the far side, this side and across. So this over here is 0, isn't it, Corey?
Yes.
So we're going to have to go in here and change car.x. So the position of this car, okay, with this condition is going to be 0. Okay. Now let's see what that looks like for a second.
Hopefully it works.
Now it loaded. Generally, if you have an error in JavaScript, it'll say program error and it won't even load the game. If the game doesn't load, it generally means you have a bug. Now it's working, Corey, except I've seen a problem here. These cars are all at each other. It is chaos.
Yes.
Right? It's pretty dangerous. This would not be pretty if it was the real system on roads. So we're going to have to add something that changes this so that the cars aren't flying at each other head on, that there's a slight difference in their approach. And what we can do is we can bring in a new value here. Up to now, we've used X values and Y values. There's actually one other value we can use here called Z, or some people might say Z. I'll say Z. So we're going to use the Z axis, and the Z axis adds depth to our game. So it's going to give us that idea that the cars are overlapping, isn't it, Corey?
Yeah.
Now, it's going to be easy enough to do, guys, because what we're doing is we're going to go into this line for me, car.x, which we've changed to 0. So again, pause if you need to check that up to this line you're happy enough. And if I go down, if I return a line, I'm going to change this now. So I'm going to add a Z value. So it's going to be car, and instead of X, remember, we're going to add Z. Okay. All right. And we're going to say we want only a slight difference because we want the depth to be just enough, isn't it, Corey? So
yeah,
maybe something like a -1.
Yeah, try -1. That could work.
-1. And let's see now. Let's refresh our game and see if that has worked for us. Okay.
The suspense. Woo! Okay.
Perfect.
That looks so much better.
Hold on now. Did one? I feel like one did. Oh no, there we go. That's good. Yeah. Whew. Thought I was wrong there. Okay, so we have our Z axis, our depth is in there as well now. So I'm going to toggle back to blocks and let's just try this game and just see has our blocks set up. Now, if you've been trying that at home with the JavaScript and it's just not working and you have errors, what you can do is you can kind of delete as much as you've done. If you're really, really struggling with it, do try it though. And you can go back and you can pause what you're going to see now, which will be the block version of this. Isn't that fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay, so when it switches back, it's taking its time. When it switches back, we're going to test our game. We're going to see, is it working? And if we need to, oh, here we go. Okay, great. So I'm going to move down a little bit and just make sure you're happy with the second percentage chance we did. I think it's actually, okay. So yeah, this is the one we just did, everyone. So if you need to pause, this is the code we've literally just done in blocks. So this is what we just done in JavaScript. Okay, so if you want to pause and just, this is what you should see now in the version of the blocks. And you can see the only difference really is we've obviously changed a few values and we've added our Z axis. Okay, right. So my game is loaded over here. Corey, will we give it a shot?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm going to hit A. Oh,
that happened to me. It's like a glitch when you first do it.
Will I go again?
Yeah, just refresh. It should work.
Okay. Oh, maybe my code is wrong.
Let's see. Well, you have by 16, but it's not that much of a difference. You could change it to 10, -10.
It's going down, isn't it? Sure, I've got the wrong. -16, Corey. I'm going up. There we go.
Woo. I love when you spot your error, though. I love when you spot it. It's like you just solved a puzzle or something.
Yeah. Very satisfying. It's working. Oh, God. That was a serious jump. Right. Anyway,
that wasn't even a challenge.
It wasn't even a challenge. I'm gonna go again because we want to just see if it actually works. Okay, there we go. Let's move up. Oh, it's jumping a bit. I don't know. Anyway,
I think it's just glitchy.
It's a bit glitchy at the moment. Yours might be a bit better at home. Now, one last block we need to add, guys, is this isn't really an enemy unless it affects us if we overlap with it. So we want to add one final block, an overlap block. We're very used to these where we say if the player overlaps with the enemy, it's game over, because obviously if we overlap with any of the cars, it should be game over for us. Okay, so we're going to add one more thing. So we're going to go to sprites, We're going to go down and we are going to get, sorry, it went too far. We're going to go into our overlaps area. We're going to grab our block. We're familiar with these. I'll just zoom in slightly. Okay, and we are going to say if our player overlaps with our enemy. So we're going to have to change this one. And I think we're just going to say game over, really, aren't we, Corey?
Yeah, just for this week. Next week it might be something else, but for now we'll just say game over.
Game over. So it's going to be game over, lose. Okay. And that should work. Now I can quickly try it here again if my thing isn't as jumpy. But if you see me all of a sudden fly over the road, that's something I might have had another little error when I was testing. So, or when I was coding earlier. Oh no, it's really, oh, there we go. Now I'm in the middle of the road. We'll see. We have to wait. Literally a sitting duck again now. Waiting for the car to come.
You would have won the game.
Oh, it's a bit slow. It's a bit glitchy here because we have to, there could be an issue I have in terms of how this is. Here we go. There we go. Game over. Right. So we really had to wait in suspense there. Now, what we want you to do for your home challenge, and Corey will put this up on the screen in a second, but while I'm in the game here, it might be easy, is we want you for your home challenge this week to, we've done the enemies as cars. We want you to design the enemies for the water. And if you can you do it in JavaScript? Because if you look at the way we've done our car enemy, okay, we've done set our car to be a certain thing. So you can design a new enemy. You're going to obviously set it again to move it a certain direction on the water. Okay, so think about what an enemy could be in the water. Obviously, where that enemy is going to be is on top of the water tile and so on. So we've done the code already. It's just that's going to be a new enemy in a different location. And if you could do that in JavaScript, even better. But if you want to do it in blocks, that's no problem as well. Okay, so Corey, if you want to maybe show everyone that in text on the screen so they know what they're at. And well done, everyone, and we'll pick up on this next week.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amanda. Okay, so as Amanda said, your home challenge for next week is actually really, really exciting because it actually brings us into next week. So what we want to know is using JavaScript, okay, can you create a new enemy? So a water-based animal maybe, because remember mine's a crocodile. So when I was doing that spray planning sheet, I decided mine was going to be a crocodile. Then place this enemy on top of a random water tile. Be sure that your enemy can move at speed across the x-axis, set their position, and destroy them on the wall. Okay, so if you want to pause me now and just write that down or just take note of what your home challenge is for next week. And then next week we'll go through it on screen. So well done, everyone. That was absolutely amazing. So any questions? I actually see one here. That's really good. Can we add a feature to unlock new sprites? So I'm not sure. I think, do you mean in your game that a new sprite occurs? I'm going to take that question as that. So what you could have done is you might have had like a bonus box like we did last week, and that when you overlap with that bonus box, you can set a new sprite and put their position or change your sprite's picture so it looks different. I'm not sure. What do you think, Amanda? Anything else that you do there?
Yeah, no, that's really cool, actually, isn't it?
Yeah. I never thought of that.
There could be a way that when you enter a new level, we'll have a look at it, that your original sprite maybe overlaps with something and a new sprite appears or something.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
It'd be like a treasure chest where you unlock. I know what they mean by that idea, yeah. And maybe when you overlap with the treasure chest, a new player appears.
That's so cool. I never even thought of that.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a look at that. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's so creative. So well done, everyone, on this week. Remember, your home challenge and any other files can be found at aka.ms/HomeSpace files. Okay, that's where you'll find everything. Scroll down until you find the game design with MakeCode Arcade section. And I suppose we'll see you next week at the same time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.